I finally had my first official draft. Pretty happy with the results here, so I'll pull up my team. Um, Ended up getting Le'Veon Bell, AJ Green, Alshon Jeffries, Eric Decker, Michael Floyd, Travis Kelsey. Had to handcuff Le'Veon Bell with D'Angelo Williams. Got Chris Ivory, Bilal Powell, and the other guys are kind of like late round flyers. Anquan Bolden, as you can see on the screen here. Dixon's kind of my end of the season guy. Hopefully he breaks out. Christian Michael, never know what's going to happen with him. Played this game for a few years now, but I'll take a stab at him. I think I got him in like the 12th or something like that. And they ended up with Andy Dalton like as one of my last picks for my QB. And I was pretty happy with that. Even Terrell Pryor, a few of those stabs, potential like difference makers that I'm not really relying on. I got him really late too. So here's the draft here. I made a mistake of not just recording it as we went. Especially, it would have been better if I would have talked through it. And that was my only online draft, so I really dropped the ball there. But I went through and added all the picks here into fantasy football. You can go to the draft wizard if you import your team. There's something that it's called like Draft Manual Assistant or something like that, and you can basically create your own draft board from your league. Because I couldn't find a way to like import it in. I don't know if it's just, I don't know if I'm just missing something or you can't do it. But anyway, this is how the picks went here. So I ended up with the pick 6. There's Antonio Brown, Julio Jones, Beckham. So this is a .5 PPR league. There's no kickers, and it's a 3 keeper as well. So you would expect a lot of the wide receivers to go early, usually in keeper drafts, right? Because they have a little bit more stability. You're expecting them to be around for a few years. Somebody like Adrian Peterson is probably on the tail end of his career. So if this is your starter keeper league, he's just more of a risky play. You're expecting him to be there for 3 years, or if not, then you have to let him fall. Because getting him that early is, I don't know. It's just not a draft style for me. So my top 3 receivers were gone. So AJ Green is my 4th on my board. And that's one thing that was actually pretty surprising too, is that I was able to hang on and follow my board all the way almost to a T, except for the Michael Floyd. I hadn't updated my rankings with all the injuries of the Cardinals receivers, and so I kind of waffled a little bit with the Decker and Floyd picks, but I'll go over that a little bit later. So first pick there, so AJ Green. Then the running back. So if I was going to go like running back heavy, or focus on running back, I would have went Gurley first, because he's only been in the league for 1 year, and he showed that he can do it. He's a beast. Ezekiel Elliott, first round. I've written pretty extensively about how I'm not going to touch Ezekiel Elliott or David Johnson in the first 2 rounds. They're just risky. Talk about no sample size in the NFL. You're paying for every bit of his upside there. So then Dez Bryant. I think that's actually how it goes right after AJ Green on my depth chart, or my tiered rankings. And then after that, so we got David Johnson, Lamar Miller, who I'm actually starting to go bigger on, but I'm probably not going to get him. He's just going too early. And then Allen Robinson, Mike Evans, who I was hoping that would come back to me, but he didn't even survive the turn. So Devontae Freeman, Gronkowski, Demaryius Thomas went really early too. That one was a surprise. That one, like in mock drafts and everybody's rankings, he's in like the early 3rd. So that one's surprising. Keenan Allen's after that. I would have went Keenan Allen over DT. No questions asked, because at least you have some stability there with Rivers, and some history there. Brandon Marshall went there, so he's like still in my first tier. So With Le'Veon Bell on the board at 2-7, that's just something I couldn't pass up. The suspension went down from 4 games to 3, and he's just flat out like the best fantasy football player, you know, in the game. Antonio Brown's the most consistent, but Le'Veon Bell is like such an integral part of the offense. He'll have 15 to 25 rushing attempts, and then he'll have 8 to 10 targets a game, and you just can't beat that. That's two players in one. So after that went Doug Martin, Sammy Watkins, he went a little early too from like the mocks and everybody's quote unquote rankings. Mark Ingram, Jamal Charles went really late. That's some pretty good value there. So Julio, Jamal Charles, that's a really good start. McCoy, Carlos Hyde went really early too. I feel like you can get him in the fourth, sometimes later. But he was really committed to getting two running backs on the turn, and he didn't end up with anything too bad back there, with Macklin and Benjamin. So I could see the argument for it. It's just not the way that I'll be drafting this year. C.J. Anderson, Jonathan Stewart went really early. This is a Harris podcast league, and Christopher Harris is really big on Jonathan Stewart, so I think that might have done something to him, added a little bit of value there, or made him reach a little bit further. Then there's Eddie Lacy, and then Alshon Jeffrey. At this point, he's still in my top tier wide receivers, and this is the third round. So if I'm guessing right on my tiers, then that's tremendous value there. And he definitely has some injury concerns, but if he plays like he did in that stretch of when he was healthy last season and the seasons before, he's like a 20-30 point a game type of guy in a full point PPR. So I'm pretty happy with that to get two of the main wide receivers that I wanted. That was the risk of taking Bell, is that I really wanted two dominant receivers and potentially even three. But the way the draft was shaken out was that a lot of receivers were going early. And then so after I pick Alshon Jeffrey, you see that it's just like there's like 6 receivers on the turn here. So after that, so Brandon Cooks went, Cooper went, Newton, end of the third. That's some pretty good value too. If you have your team pretty set, which he's light on running back, but I do like that style. You get difference makers in the positions. I don't know if I would have done that, but either way, like that's good value. Rawls, that's a pretty risky pick there too. If you see his first pick, David Johnson, who, I'm not big on. Gronkowski, I'm not big on, and Rawls with all the question marks. It's like this guy's team is really risky. He is like all upside. His entire roster. So he either is going to win the league or he's going to do terribly. So where are we at? So T.Y. Hilton I really like too. Jarvis Landry, Randall Cobb, Baldwin, Moncrief. That's about where he's been going, like everywhere. Julian Edelman, Jordan Reed in the fourth. That's a pretty good value, especially if you have, some difference makers there. I don't know if I'm ever going to pick them because I usually like the wide receivers that are on the board in the fourth. So there's Decker, Forte, and so this is probably the hardest pick that I had in this league or this draft format so far, because I was deciding between Decker, Tate, and Macklin, and I figured that Floyd would come back around. And I didn't want Fitzgerald with the potential like MCL injury. John Brown hasn't done any practices. I think just recently he was activated off the PUP list. But this was a pretty hard pick because I had a lot of like really big upside wide receivers, and I think the way that I ended up picking was that it was more of a stable, like high touchdown, high floor type of receiver in my first flex spot, because this league has 2 flex spots. I forgot to mention that earlier. And so I was looking for something like that, like with Tate. At least you kind of know what you get with Decker, right? Like he's been on multiple teams, multiple quarterbacks, and he's just a red zone threat. Like he's going to get his opportunities in the red zone because he is so efficient there. And with Tate, you know, I'm not. I was pretty big on Tate in the beginning of the season, but seeing Marvin Jones in the preseason has kind of pushed me off him a little bit, to where I would probably go. He'd probably still be above Macklin for me, but I think I like Floyd better. You know, Floyd has that potential boom, and so I kind of want to just go with a safer pick there, something consistent, you know, or as consistent as it can be, right? So after that was Hill. Tate we talked about. Latavius Murray I really liked. He was another one that I was hoping would come back around to me, but that didn't happen. Manuel Sanders, Macklin, Benjamin. A lot of reports of, you know, Funchess being amazing and all this, and it could just be a way to motivate Benjamin. But either way, you don't really like hearing that type of, you know, rhetoric, coach speak, surrounding a player that you're going to draft, you know, in the first 5 rounds, you know, 5th round, if he turns out to be how he was, that is, you know, it's great value. So we'll see what happens with that. DeMarco Murray went, Melvin Gordon went, then Larry Fitz. So he was probably one of my biggest picks, or one of my guys that I really wanted in my flex spots. And with that MCL injury, that was just kind of enough to push me back. You know, he's kind of in the later part of this his career, and the preseason's just about, you know, it's halfway over already. So if he does have some type of injury and that lingers throughout the season, you know, it's gonna be bad news. So so I wanted to avoid that. Greg Olson as well, like he's having back spasms, and you know he's in the 10th year in his career, and he's an amazing tight end. I'm not going to disparage him at all, but one of my draft philosophies is to kind of let a player beat me if they're on their tail end of their career. If they're on their like last 2 years, you know, like I'm okay, you know, missing out on that second to last year just so I don't get that last year, you know, and I'm talking about like a decline in production and, like, you know, efficiency and, you know, athleticism. That's where I'm going, not skill set. So Michael Floyd, talked about that pretty extensively. You know, if he ends up being the one in that offense, that's going to be incredible value. You know, he's a big play guy. Most of my other guys are like cogs, like the mainstay in their offense, and Floyd is kind of that boom guy for me. And then we have Arian Foster. He was one that I was thinking about as well, but I already had Bell and Foster last year, so it kind of like deterred me off of it, even though it really shouldn't. And yeah, I kind of just let that one fall for whatever reason. He's probably in his last few years too, and this is a keeper league, so you just kind of like throw your hands up. You know, you're like, I love the player, but I want to get something potentially, because if it's a 3 keeper league, you know, I could be keeping, right now I'll be keeping Bell, Jeffrey, and Green. But Bell and Jeffrey are in a contract year, and you never know where they're going to land. You know, injuries happen, things like that. So there's there wasn't a lot of upside for me to keep, and I guess I just made the argument the other way. So I'm probably just going to do 6 rounds on this one, and then pick up later, because the video's getting pretty long. So after that, Gio Bernard. I like Gio. Dion Lewis, all the news just came out for him. So remember what I said about that's the guy? Oh, that's not the same guy. Okay. But that's a big loss there, you know. If he's out half the season, quarter of the season, you know, that's your 5th round pick. John Brown, that was a risky pick there, because during this draft he wasn't even playing yet, because this draft happened on Saturday the 20th. And then Langford came around, and Matthews. Those were 2 guys I was going to target in the next round, and they ended up just not even close getting back to me. So I'm going to end the draft there. I'll end the note on my team here, and I'll just keep going when I find some more time. Just this is rounds 1 through 6, and then my next one could potentially just, you know, be the next half of it, but we'll see how it goes. So yeah, if you guys like the video, go ahead and subscribe. Leave me some comments. Tell me, that I draft improperly and all that. So I'll talk to you guys later.